Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I'm Anthony Mormino, and my first thought this morning, and I'm sure you had a similar one, what a difference a week makes.
Yesterday, as I was driving, I'm thinking spring.
Yes.
My dashboard thermometer said 51 yesterday.
And I think we're looking at, I'm not a weather guy because it's something I can't control, but my wife asked me last night about this forthcoming week, and I think Thursday or Friday maybe touching 60. But when I was coming to work today, which was obviously 30 degrees warmer minimum than last Saturday morning, there's just no snow, and I don't want to be the old guy get off my lawn, but I don't ever remember that in my youth because this is the part of the year, and Seth went to Syracuse, and I've heard horror stories about winters in that part of the state, but it was not conceivable because the snow just built up and then started melting in March. There was no midwinter thaw and all the snow went away and you started from zero again. You got a storm in December, the snow lasted. You got it in January, it just built up. Remember how it used to be difficult when you wanted to make a turn and you had to put your nose out into the street because the snowbank, but I'm driving to come here and I'm like, not only is it mild out, everything's brown. I can see everything.
I thought of that last week as I was driving, thinking how cold it was, and I'm coming down the Northway looking over and thinking, but there is nothing there.
No.
Very strange.
Denise and Anthony, they're skiers. I have skied with them, but so Anthony skis with his school, and they had it last night, and we picked him up about 10:15. He's like, no, where they go? Went to Jiminy last night. They go, no, it was pretty good up there. I said, and I know what he means because I've been skiing with there. They make the snow, and it's always funny because obviously it's expensive, so they make the snow where the skiers are going to use it. But you look off and you see the leaves because it's only where they need it to be. So much more pleasant today. A big day of racing down in South Florida at Tampa. Ren Carruthers will join Seth, as I understand it, Racing Across America. I don't know if she's your first guest, but I know she's on. I was just thinking about this, that the game has changed so much, but it's really like this week, it's, full-on press Tampa. Next week will be the fairgrounds people, and how these tracks really got on board with just bundling these multiple stakes races for the fans. And then for us, it's good because next week we just, move over to the fairgrounds. They'll be front and center. 2 weeks from today, I will miss you. We will be coming back from hopefully far warmer climates with our son's vacation.
Nice.
Looking forward to that. Always spending time with the family. So, but today it's Tampa Bay. Seth has Tampa Bay. We'll. What did we decide? Are we doing Aqueduct first or you first?
Yes. I think it was Aqueduct first.
Is that what we decided, Danny? Yeah, Aqueduct. Okay. So we're gonna go with Aqueduct as it is a big day. I love the card at Tampa. I mean, it's funny, Seth, because in our adult lifetime, and you've spent time there with your father through the years, but it really went from, and I want to be disparaging, but I want to be honest, like a D-level track, 1990. I told people, I said, Champaign for Astor was the first time I ever saw that racetrack. That was 1990. To a solid B in my adult lifetime. It has, I was 27, I'll soon be 60, but it has moved front and center in the winter time, and people revere their turf course, but really
Sam
has
Davis
elevated.
today in the Tampa Bay Derby have started to play
because
the Kentucky
I think,
Derby Trail.
You have the Minaret, the Pelican. There's like 4 or 5 stakes races today, and then they'll have, they've done the same thing that all tracks have done, their fairgrounds. They have the series for the fillies, series for the colts. They got a little turf action, and whole older horses, and they give it to you today. So today is, what do they call it? Is it like preview day or something? Ren will talk about it at the top of the hour later, but much nicer weather today. We're at the Big A for the weekend, which is nice, and when I was even in my 20s, I used to like President's Day. I always thought that was we started climbing out of winter. It's not really the case anymore. Except for those cold days last week, it's been rather pleasant for winter. So not to worry, but we'll kick it off with the big A, Seth.
Yeah, and Ren
Or
Carruthers.
anything, you have anything else?
Ren Carruthers comes up a little bit later on, and also Ellis Starr will jump on board, and he'll take a look at some of the Tampa stakes, but also the Withers.
Couple
as well.
things I got to clear up. This thing in the water at the Victoria Falls,
Oh, right.
it is a thing.
I saw
It's unbelievable.
No, I saw somebody else
It's
who was
a
even
thing.
worse.
Tell the people what it is, because you brought it up. It's a thing, though. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, we talked about it, I don't know, a couple months ago. Dan Silver, who was a former NYRA
Yes.
employee, and we know, and he posted on Twitter, I guess, a picture. He and his girlfriend, wife, fiance were vacationing over there, and they had a
Africa.
selfie of themselves at the top of Victoria Falls in this little pool with literally you could reach your hand over and you're over the falls. And I said...
And the falls is about 280 feet, folks.
It's Victoria Falls. It's well known as,
Yeah.
And I said at the time...
He says to me off the
Is
air, he
that
goes,
a-
did you see that? I said, yeah, I did. And then we started talking about it. And now I can tell you it is
I said,
clearly a
is
thing.
it a thing?
It is
Because
clearly a thing.
How do they allow it and whatnot? But subsequently, as I say, I saw... Like, Dan was in the pool. Yeah, he would have to reach it. I saw somebody who was kind of like right on you just looking at the picture. I
think it's about two. I think I read about it because I got so intrigued in a
thinking, isn't it a
macabre
slippery,
way. I'm like
maybe?
288 feet down. And the other thing is because 2 weeks I'm going to miss Saudi Cup Day. My question is, which will come first? Linda Rice's suspension or the redistribution of the maximum security purse? It's my understanding that purse still has not been redistributed, have been paid out. Because isn't it Midnight Bisou who was waiting for the $10 million?
Yeah.
Because the owners of Maximum Security, who was it? Gary West? Gary Barber? Gary West. Gary West. He has said he is completely fine with him being out and Midnight Bisou getting $10 million. And I'm not saying, but if you're the Midnight Bisou people, I don't care how rich you are, $10 million is got to help something, at least a charity. But it's, and this is where I think the sport is tough. It's like, just nobody's covering it. Like, you're knocking on the door.
I
Like if you're the Midnight Bisou people, would you ever go back with a horse and go, well, I want my $10 million first?
Yeah. But
and no one in the sport talks about
this one
this.
is tough to cover because I don't know what the transparency is over there exactly.
Well, you just ask the guy,
And I think they have, and the answer is kind of like, well, we're waiting for things to play out. And
they've played out. We're done.
Yeah.
We're done. And the Linda Rice thing in New York, it's like, it's a Twitter joke now all the time. Especially like when she gets hot for a while, you're like, what are we gonna do? And I don't know if they have those NYRA press conferences anymore before they come to Saratoga, but I'd be going with one question.
Oh yeah,
I'm like,
as far as they don't. That one though, to me the penalty was too harsh to begin with, for what was alleged or. Is it beyond alleged at this point?
No, I don't think it's alleged anymore. She did it.
But as I said, to me, so I don't know where to fall on that one. That is taking this long to adjudicate. And now the Baffert thing has become, the Baffert Derby thing is becoming a drama as well. If people didn't read, they're now asking that the judge in this hearing they had a couple weeks ago recuse herself.
I guess he sees it going south.
And I kind of get their argument. Her husband works for the Jockey Club, or doesn't exactly work for the Jockey Club, but has some kind of...
But you also would think this would be the type of thing before we get started. This isn't new news. You knew who he was, etc. But, sometimes we can't get penny breakage and we can't get the races timed. It's like we just can't get there in the 21st century. But the Victoria Falls thing is a thing, Seth.
That's right. Check it out.
Check it out.
If you haven't seen, I'm sure you can type Victoria Falls into Twitter search and you'll come up with a picture. As I say, it's got to be a little slippery. And if it's even a little slippery,
There is no way, and people are flocking to this.
All right, here we go. Again, Tampa Bay a little bit later on a really nice day there. But the Withers in the mix at Aqueduct. So, again, some 3-year-old action this afternoon at the various venues. But we kick things off, Aqueduct, the opener. State-bred maiden special fillies going 3/4 of a mile.
You know, we kind of see this angle play out at Saratoga almost on a, twice-a-week basis. And, if you're comfortable with the morning line, the race goes through the 6, Monroe. And I don't know if this is a historical reference, but you have a first-time starter for Todd Pletcher, who costs over $300,000. That's 6-5 with Johnny V. So thinking about the race, whether you're playing, the pick 5 or something, 6-5 on the debut. I'm just, you can see by my numbers. I bid a little bit, but, we have 7 listed workouts. Remember when they, before the first start, the form will give you up to 12. So we're going on the suspicion that there's only been 7. It's been down at Palm Beach Downs, right? And they ship up to New York for this New York bred, which makes sense. And maybe the offspring of Cantheros is just lays over this field, but I have it for second. I'm going to number 7, My Angel. Mike Maker's runner makes a second career start. We get Lasix today. Now, this horse's debut was eligible to get Lasix. Right? It was a 3-year-old debut for this filly, offspring of War Dancer, who had a nice little spike during Saratoga. Younger stallion, offspring of Warfront. So I'm just thinking I'm throwing out that race. We were 16-1. I was looking for I was looking for somebody other than the 6. I'll be perfectly clear. I'm not completely off the reservation here. I have Monroe for second. Might be the goods here. And the other thing is, I will confess, it's that other thing that we like to say, Seth. How good do you need to be to win in here?
Yeah.
The easiest point to discuss is buyer speed figure. What would you need to debut run here to win? 55, 57 probably get you home. Todd Pletcher, firster from Cantheros, probably has that in the bag of tricks. See if it's today. But I'm not finding out at a short price. Probably win by 3. And for third, and this will sound almost counterintuitive. I think this is the default answer for people who are going to look to go through Monroe. So Naughty Nan, I think, will not be a good price. Gets Lasix with a second career start. But this horse did debut as a juvenile, as an offspring of Practical Joke. I have it for third. So 7, 6, 5 with obviously, and this is where, by and large, I know the pick 3 and you like exactas. Are you a pick 5 devotee?
Occasionally, not.
I didn't think so. And that's why I like to, for those who are, because it's seemingly the most popular bet in the game right now, how do you attack this type of race? Do you single him and move on? The first leg, because Brian Natto tells me there's also a philosophy to where the legs fall.
Yeah.
You're out in the first leg.
I think it's also what you might have later on. If you have a couple of 20-1 shots you like later on,
there's a lot to it.
You don't mind.
Which is probably why I don't play it. There's a lot to think
about. I'll also say Majestic Return, a little bit interesting. Goes out for 10 strike, who is Marshall Graham and company, and we've had Marshall on many times up at Saratoga. The professor, as
young whippersnapper.
And this is a homebred for Marshall. I'd love to.
I know he was in it that long to have homebreds.
That's what I'm curious about, and I just saw he qualified. He may have already qualified, but I just saw that last week.
Oh, and by the way, because it's off the thing, but it's so special nowadays. How about the Phippses winning a race at Gulfstream? It's going to happen so infrequently the rest of our career, and it's, they've gone from being U.S. Steel, the big Beaumont, to now it's at the end of like 80 years, and they won last Saturday down at, they have very few horses running their silks.
Shug going very well now lately, too.
So kudos for them.
All right, second race today, State-bred Claimers going 6.
Boy, I'll tell you what. Now, I guess if you singled Monroe, and I think you talk about, Seth, how you get through the other legs, well, I'm thinking you have to, because everybody can win this race. You can't go 3 or 4 deep in the first race and then come to the second leg and be here. So I think just this, you're like, there's not a, I also want to see what did, the long shot is 10. No, there's only one horse, double-digit odds. 362, all 8, in my opinion, certainly 7 of them, are highly competitive in this race. I am 362, Mass Marauder going out for Rudy Rodriguez is my top pick. And, when you look at it, Seth, Rudy is almost like, if you take it, quantify it, almost where he was at Saratoga. This is a rough patch because I think most of us would agree that this time of year at Aqueduct is not nearly as tough a sledding as August at Saratoga.
Yeah, more his wheelhouse.
This is his wheelhouse. Well put. I think at Saratoga, what he ended up finishing about 2 for 80.
That sounds right.
But you're like, it's Saratoga. But this is Rudy's meat and potatoes. He's 5 for 64. You can do the math, but this horse has been highly competitive in a race where I have 7 completely live for the top spot. Not just like to hit the board trifecta, to win the race. For second, number 4, Double Shot, very popular at the Claim Barn. Chris Engelhardt claimed this horse 2 back from Oscar Brera. The third already scored at 9-2. And then for third, Quick Return. Ran huge in October. A big number, career best. Has not matched that, which I would have expected to. But now I'm hoping recycles 4 races later. 362.
And I'll just mention as I'm looking at the PPs here.
Yes.
Bronx Bomber has Frankie Pennington on board. If people haven't
Yeah.
read, he's with the difference in dates between Parks and Aqueduct. I guess he's going to ride at both tracks.
Yes.
And if you're not familiar with him, he's a guy who's a high percentage rider down in Philadelphia. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this winter in New York. Third race at Aqueduct kicks off the stakes action. Jimmy Winkfield for the sprinters. The 3-year-old sprinters, they will go 3/4 of a mile.
And I was thinking, who took his book, Frankie Pennington's book?
Oh, I read it too, and now I'm blanking as well.
I think the injured rider, right? Was it Kendrick Carmouche's guy?
It could have been.
Because Kendrick is on the sideline. So, and remember, we don't talk about it. I bet we don't talk about it 3 times a year, folks. But the agent, now, I know the jockey is the one who performs the feat, but the agent, it's about 50-50. It's not like a caddy and a golfer. It's a much different relationship. And the Jimmy Winkfield, as you're looking that up, 5-4-2 competitive short field. This is the old Best Turn Stakes when I was a kid in the clubhouse. Gets my top pick for Todd Pletcher's runner. Starting on the outside in a field of 5, the offspring of Spicetown takes on Winners for the first time in the 7th career start. Had run winning type races previously before breaking through. For second, right next door in the starting gate, number 4, Drew's Gold, goes out for James Chapman. And if, I always like to speak of historically for Mr. Chapman, he was the first trainer of City Zip, and Drew's Gold tries to make it 3 for 3 after debuting in May at Churchill Downs, and then impressively won an allowance race at Laurel just a few days ago in late January for third. Number 2, Daydreaming Boy, already has 2 stakes races at Parks under their belt, now tries for the third time. 5-4-2 in the Jimmy Winkfield.
Yeah, here we go. Jimmy Riccio. Will be
who used to
Frankie
be
Pennington.
Yep. That's a
with
good agent to get. He's dialed in. I think Jimmy Riccio got dumped about 4 months ago, and they weren't sending flowers to each other.
Yeah, well, that happens too. That is
once in a while, it is a mutual accord, but sometimes it's not.
The 4th at Aqueduct, starter allowance at the 50 level. Again, 6 furlongs, the trip.
9-5-1 as I go to the outside again, but a field of 9 here. Upper level, adding blinkers today, gets my top pick, has shown early speed. We're on the outside. I think the early speed will be very beneficial to get the position. Now, I'm wondering if with the blinkers on, they're trying to go back to some of the earlier career form with not only good position, but the front end. For second, number 5 going out after a good effort at this level. January 14th, new jock aboard. And for third, scheduled to break for the number 2 post position. Number 1, as consistent a runner on dirt as you'll ever see. I mean, it's almost impractical, but I just want to run these 8 Beyer speed figures through for you. 71, 78, 76, 79, 72, 73, 76, 76. I mean, that's about as consistent on dirt as you will find. Third start since September 951. Almost seems impractical, but if you believe the numbers, you believe the numbers. I mean, always shows up.
In the fifth race, we're looking at conditional claimers going 6, and I'll just mention our friends at Eddie Epps Racing, your friend as well. You talk about spending time with Eddie back in the day up at Saratoga. He has Darn That Song. They had a runner, I'm blanking on the name yesterday. They had a runner at a price yesterday that ran really well, too well to lose, but ran a good second yesterday. I was like,
well, I told you we're going back 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, and Eddie lived in Florida, and it has children in life, and he was actually the first person that I discovered that Florida schools start before Labor Day. They start in August, and Eddie would have to leave. So what I'm saying is, he went every single day to the track until he had to leave. Like, it wasn't one of those things like he had a choice. He had to leave, and he would usually leave around like August 25th, so we'd miss like the last 8 days. But he went to the track every single day, and we watched races. The best part of the story is the best part
from the racing formula.
Well, the part was because it was so pristine white on opening day, and then by the 4th week, it was anything but pristine white, and it was only one person. It was great entertainment. I mean, he's into it. I mean, and I will say this, we had him on TV, and sometimes TV makes you nervous, although Eddie's not really built that way. But he is a changed man. He is, whether it's business or aging or whatever, but he is much calmer now than the Eddie I knew 25 years. 973, Darn That Song. Got whooped up on when being runner-up most recently, but I think that was kudos to a fleet. Arlene won a couple races back. That was at Finger Lakes. I think can compete at this level, has already shown us can compete at this level. This was, I'd like to call Eddie and see, like, they stayed with their jock, and, he's been around New York for a while, and it just seems like I think we kind of know what we're getting now. And Eddie has a good enough stable with, in New York, he can make calls and everything. And what I like about Eddie's operation is Eddie's a bettor. So he sees it that way, and they're staying with him. So, I think that's kudos. Captivating Cara, number 7, my second pick. Mitch Friedman's runner was off from October to the first week of the new year. 1 for 14 lifetime, and for third, write this down, Jeffrey Engard. I have to say something, it just dawned on me in my mind because of captivating. This is how rough we have it in this sport, Seth. I want you to do me a favor as we're going to break, right?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to go to equibase.com. We're going to go to a break here. We'll come right back second half, but I'm going to give the audience where I'm going with this, the heads up. Go to equibase.com, and this is free, so everybody can do it if you want. And in the horses up there in that box for the horses, type in Medina Spirit. And when we come back, we'll discuss it. We'll be right back with the second half of today's action from Aqueduct.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
This is a championship meet. All the best jockeys in the world are here, and I'm excited to ride against them. And you get to watch some really incredible, talented athletes out there.
To us, it's a place to be in the winter.
I love Gulfstream Park because of the racing.
The palm trees, the beach is right here. The horse racing is some of the best in the country.
come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So, as in my cousin Vinny, when late in the movie, when Joe Pesci sends the sheriff off on a mission and puts him on the stand. So what'd you find?
Well, you pointed out the Kentucky Derby is still number one, Medina Spirit, and it's absolutely funny why they like.
I think funny's the nice word to put it. It's malfeasance. They are the keeper of the stats of the sport, and they have Medina Spirit still listed. And Seth and I aren't going to go through the numbers, but his lifetime earnings indicate the purse. If you take that out, he's nowhere near that. But I was doing some other stuff the other day, and I saw that, and I was like, that's as bad as it gets. It's the Kentucky Derby. It's not the third race at Fauna. Somebody maybe missed it. And I said to Seth, I actually didn't go in and double check on the Juddmonte runner, who's now the winner.
Yeah, Mandaloon.
Mandaloon, that he is still listed as second, and his earnings don't get it. But I'm just like, oh, come on. You got to do better than that. I almost fell over when I saw it. I was like, I'll be honest, I went to another computer and looked up to see, I go, this can't be true. Not this late in the game. It was 9 months ago. And I said
for folks who aren't aware, they do, we were saying before, they'll go back and change things.
They do.
You know, you get a drug positive that changes
8 months later, they go back, they take down the mutuals. So then you're thinking, well, it must be something. Then when you look in the opinions, at the bottom of the opinions, it says what happened on what date. Yeah. So there you go.
Why did that bring up Medina Spirit?
If I tell you why, you promise not to laugh? You're already laughing. Because a lot circles around here, and I don't write them down because I should write it down. That's bad. But I don't see it for a week. And we like bringing stuff, and I just had these things, and they all, they just came out, and it just popped in like I didn't do it in the first part, like I don't
think that's funny because I do that all the time.
It jumped
talking
out
to anybody,
and that's why I knew it was goofy, and I was actually lucky that it was the fifth race to time me up better, but I was just like, that was actually supposed to be the first thing after Good Morning. It was supposed to be because that's structural to our sport, and sometimes I need to do a better job. They really need to do a better job.
Yeah, no, it is funny. Sixth race at Aqueduct today, more maiden special weight runners, and again, 6 furlongs.
And I never do this, and I haven't done this, but boy, is this an easy route for. And I'll be honest, I did not notice. 418. Andrew Lakeman is the owner trainer. I could tell you I would probably never root for a horse as much as I hope when Love Takes Over wins. Right, he's the paralyzed jock, right? Yeah. Years ago. I hope he wins. I mean, a nice debut, and it's one of the best stories in the sport. I rarely ever talk about stories in the sport. On debut, got the slop, goes out today. Owner, trainer. I'm glad he stayed in the game, but you can see, I'm guessing this is probably his entire attachment to the game. He probably owns one horse. He's at one starter. This is it. So go number 4. For second, part of the entry, number 1, Common Prosperity, offspring of Classic Empire. For Barry Schwartz debuts. And for third, the other first that's probably going to get bet, Moore's Law. So 4-1-8 as Andrew Lakeman takes on the big boys in the 6th.
All right, let's move on to race number 7. We're looking at plain vanilla claimers going a mile.
639, folks. Letty, who won a couple races back at Aqueduct. I'm not calling it that other name, but since running in 1X's, was handled pretty well. Now drops back at claiming 25. Now this horse won at starter allowance. So I like the 92 because I think this is class relief, which I don't mention very often. Pit Boss, number 3 is my second pick. Rob Atras, I talked about those bar graphs that I make for trainers nowadays, and he won 4 in one day, which is That's the entirety of Rudy's Aqueduct meet and Belmont meet, folks. Rob did it in one day and for third American rule, making the second start for Orlando Noda, who, by the way, was the impetus for the bar grass for trainers.
Oh, wow.
He was mine. I still think to this day
he
is the poster child for a 10-day, not calendar, but a 10-day race day, and then quiet for 60 days. Orlando Noda was the impetus for me.
8th race today, allowance non-winners are one other than, again, the one-turn mile.
And I'm presuming this is the drinker's race. I have Loose Goose, I have Anejo, which is tequila, and I have Macallan, which is scotch. So I have vodka, tequila, and scotch. And I'm not saying any of them are named that, but I am 751. I took the, single malted Macallan in here, making the first start since June, second start since April. A Todd Pletcher runner who won going the rare mile and 40 at Tampa for second. Number 5, Patient Capital. Mike Maker adds blinkers this afternoon. If you were to guess by the name that this was a former Clarified horse, you would be right. And then scheduled break for the number 4 post position. Tequila comes in, number 1, Anejo for Doug O'Neill, 751. And I can't think how long ago it was, and you might remember this after I mentioned it, but didn't he win the Del Mar Futurity and the Hopeful on the same day? I want to say about 8-10 years ago. I think he won, and that might have been one of the first horses Doug O'Neill ever ran in the East.
That's a good day.
Not counting the Belmont State.
That's definitely a good day. The 9th, 3-year-olds face off in the Withers, $250,000, 9 furlongs to trip.
Do you have any first memories of the Withers?
No.
I think
I have no memories of the
I
Withers.
think this would be true. This was at Naira, and I think it's fair to say it was a prep for the Preakness. It was it was the one-turn mile. It was for horses that, kind of thought they were maybe sprinters, and there was a thought that the Preakness was a little easier, and Aloma's Ruler used it, went on and beat Linkage. That was 41 years ago this spring. But the Withers was kind of like that type of idea. But I think its original idea was, is this like the 190th running of the Withers?
That sounds right.
4-3-1 for me. What has become a, prep race for the Kentucky Derby. Now, hit show for Brad Cox, 2 for 3 lifetime, beat winners, goes 2 turns for the second time, tries stakes action for the company. You have Candy Ride on top, Tap It on bottom for second. Number 3, going out for Judmont, an offspring of Arrogate. And I have the sneaky suspicion that Arrogate, in his very short stallion career, is going to have a big... we're just not going to be able to imagine how good he could have been as a stallion. And for third, Arctic Arrogance, 8-5 favorite for Linda Rice, who's winning at better than 25%. They add blinkers coming off of the second place in the Jerome, which is a listed stakes race. The Withers, a grade 3. I think a very nice race, 4-3-1.
Speaking of prep for the Preakness, the El Camino Real is out in Northern California today. And I believe it now is winning you're in for the Preakness.
I think you're right. Same ownership of racetracks, in case you're baffled by how would that work, but the Stronach family owns it.
But again,
both.
that's later
told you I've been
today
to
as
Golden
well.
Gate, right?
No.
Yeah. They built the track the wrong way. If they had turned it around, it would have been probably the most beautiful view in horse racing to the water.
When it comes to Northern California, the thing I'd like to do is go to some of the fair racing.
Absolutely.
There, which looks like it'd be a lot of fun.
I want to go Bay Meadows, but they put a parking lot there.
10th and final at Aqueduct today. It'll go off at about 5 o'clock our time. We're looking at state-bred maiden claimers going 6.
11-4-7. Cam Duke gets my top pick for Jimmy Ryerson, coming off of a well-beaten third-place finish with the first-time Lasix. For second, number 4, Central Love. I think the race goes through this runner. Linda Rice could have a very nice day today. They add Lasix today for the 3-year-old debut. First off, the $40,000 claim. Not only is Linda at 26% presently, she's a 26% first off the claim. And for third, MC Donald R. Reported as first-time gelding. It's 21 days. That's about the smallest window I accept to be kind of believing first-time gelding. So 11, 4, and 7.
I asked Gary Contessa on him on the show once, and
isn't that the number he gave you?
It was short. I can't remember now, but it could have been a week or two. His was really short and said it's possible.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to. I have a couple trainers that I go through a middleman and find out, because that's unbelievable.
It was shorter than I would have thought, but as I say, I don't remember specifically now what he said.
All right, take a quick break. When we come back, big preview day at Tampa Bay Downs.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a 3-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Alongside Seth Merrow, I am Anthony Mormino, turning our attention to Tampa Bay Downs. I think it's fair to say their second biggest day of the year. Obviously, Tampa Bay Derby Day in about a month is the biggest. So we kick it off. And I think for a long time, it was really only about 3 tracks that ran a mile, 40 yards. We have maidens in the opener, 3-year-olds.
8, 7, 2, and 6. Number 8, Arch Runner by Gun Runner, trained by Todd Pletcher. There was one sibling that was okay, win early Proctor's Ledge, 7th in debut, and then won the next couple of starts. The other siblings, maybe not so much, but you would have to think that they paid $750,000. This will be a runner. Pletcher ships over, big day at Tampa to kick things off. I'll put that one on top. Sibling of Justify Champagne Juan, trained by Christophe Clement, sire Justify. So I like those factors, but looking at the produce of the dam, the siblings weren't that much. So I'm a little bit leery of this one on the breeding, but Sammy Camacho hops on board. And again, they ship cross state to take a shot on a big day at Tampa. So I'll put it in the mix, but again, on the breeding, I wasn't absolutely thrilled. Of those with some experience, Suarte going out for Owen Hardy and Godolphin. Seems to have numbers that of those that have run have a little bit of oomph to kind of hang your head on. I will say Fast Fixer by Buchero. I like Buchero as a win early sire at 20-1. Yeah, that one could be a little bit intriguing as well. But for me, in the opener, Tampa, 8, 7, 2, and 6.
Second half of the early daily double, we have claimers in for 8, non-winners at 2 lifetime, racing 6.5.
3, 8, 6, and 1. I'll put Tap first on top. It's going out for Rich Averill and Gerald Bennett, if you're not familiar with Rich Averill. Good contest player. We interviewed him a couple years ago out at the NHC, but also a prominent owner. But he lives, I don't know what he still does, but he did, and I assume still lives in Bradenton, which is just below Tampa. And so his horses are typically well met when they go out at Tampa. Gerald Bennett training, the high percentage guy there. They dip down the claiming ladder in what looks like a search for a win on a big day at Tampa. Sammy Camacho on board. I'll tilt there. Mr. Fernando in the second spot comes off a win to break the maiden in career start number 20. Those types don't thrill me, but did it in a fashion that says maybe just is rounding into some decent form right now. It also just could have been one of those springs, runs a big race, and we go back to a more lackluster performance this afternoon. 4-1 on the morning line. I don't know if you want to float much lower than that with this scenario, but I do think off the last race, this one's live. And Assert Dominance hasn't been seen since May. Workouts are okay. They certainly aren't jumping off the page, but you don't expect them to at this level. But I think if this horse comes back ready to run, probably fits in with this mix. In the second, 3-8, 6-1.
On to the third, we have 4-year-olds and up, maiden special weights, also racing 6.5.
I have a 3, 4, 2, and 7. I'm going to put a little big on top. Kathleen O'Connell, Tyler Gaffleone. Shipped over here to Tampa last time, showed some nice punch before just fading a little bit late. I'm going to look for this horse to maybe build on that and move forward. I'll put Little Big on top. Second slot, Matt Doyle. Last few starts has kind of been bouncing around between turf and dirt. You have a couple of turf starts, bookending 3 dirt starts, and a couple of those dirt starts are pretty good. Now, this horse was 8-1 on the morning line. I'm sure looking at those better dirt races, but we're looking at a trainer who's shooting an over at the meet, so I could not put this one on top. And I also didn't think the dirt races were that spectacular, but I think the horse belongs in the mix. Fun at the Fort in the third spot, fairly lightly raced, and again, firing races that probably will match up nicely with this bunch, so I'll put that one in the mix as well. It's a race you're not going to jump in with a whole lot of confidence, but I have it 3, 4, 2, and 7.
On to the fourth, 4-year-olds and up, claimers in for 16,000. We get to the turf at a mile and 16.
11, 7, 12, and 2. I'm going to put Bird's Eye View on top, going out for my man Mike Denny. The 3 races so far at Tampa started good and have gone in the wrong direction, and that has me concerned. But boy, you look at that December race, that is good enough to get it done here. I'm hoping we can pop back to that. Kind of intriguing that they reached out on a day Tyler Gaffleone will be on the west coast of Florida. They got him to ride. As I say, I'm going to look for this one to rebound to a better effort. The last race certainly wasn't one to hang your hat on, but there was some trouble in there. So Bird's Eye View, 6-1 on the morning line. I'll use that one. Whiskey Plank in the second spot, a couple of seconds, bookending a 6th, but the 6th place finish was an off-the-turf race. So certainly the last couple of turf races are very competitive with this bunch. And then in the third spot, I'll go with On the Couch. Like the top pick, going to have to negotiate from the outside post position. That is a big ask. But like the horse I have in the second spot, has a couple of nice turf efforts, bookending an off-the-turf race, and the 2 turf efforts were nice wins. So if this horse can work out a trip from the outside post position, could be very tough for Greg Sacco with Jose Ortiz named to ride. The fourth, I have it 11, 7, 12, and 2.
Now, I was just thinking about this. Could you imagine being in the office at Equibase and it comes down finally? Wouldn't somebody look over and go into the database and change that up? This is a pretty big thing. Like, this is not small. This is like
strange that it hasn't been changed.
It's like, wow, 5th race on the card. And you can see, this is another thing that big days bring, these undercard. We have 3-year-old fillies, maiden special weights going 6, and some names that our audience would be very familiar with.
I'm going to go with the most experienced horse in here, 5, 1, 2, and 9, Broken Hearts Bay. There's had a couple of races here at Tampa, and arguably the best race of I don't even think it's arguably, it was the best race of the career so far, was the race 2 back on the dirt, followed that up with a turf race, but gets back to the Tampa dirt today, and that race 2 back seems to have a little bit of an edge on this bunch. Now, we have Shug on the inside with an honor code second-time starter who kind of tossed out a little bit of a dud in debut in October at the Belmont at Aqueduct meet, but I'm guessing this horse is better than that. Took a little action at 7-1 in debut. I'm going to look for a rebound to a better performance. And Offspring of Violence, One Violent Affair. Okay, 4th in debut at Delaware in October, but with Violence on top, I'm not going to be shocked if this one absolutely benefits from that experience. A little time off, comes back improved, and if we get some odds, this one will definitely be one I'll play around with a little bit in here. In the 5th, 5, 1, 2, and 9.
On to the 6th, we have 4-year-olds and up, fillies and mares. Entry-level allowance, mile 16th on the turf.
2, 8, 9, and 11, sign of peace. Nice progression of buyer numbers in the first 3 starts. They've all been well-spaced, very well-spaced. I mean, the first start of the career was December of 2021, then came back in October of last year, and then on New Year's Eve. Maiden Breaker was in that October start. That was a pretty good effort. The follow-up against Optional Claiming Company was a 7th place finish, so went backwards a little bit theoretically, certainly in finishing position, but the number moved forward. I think this one might be primed for a good effort on this move over, getting a little venue move that could be a move forward as well. Sweet Duchess, the 8 in the mix. Kathleen O'Connell, runner with Tyler Gaffleone on board. 3rd start back off a March to December layoff, and the first 2 were a nice progression, number-wise, finishing position-wise as well. So, like the top pick, I think this one is primed for a very good effort this afternoon. And then Gabby Squared came down from Woodbine, tossed in a little bit of a clunk perhaps in the first start at Tampa. I'll look at that as a race that maybe will benefit this one education-wise with a race over the strip, because I think the races up at Woodbine certainly fit with this group. So we'll throw it back in the mix. In the 6th at Tampa, 2, 8, 9, and 11.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, stakes action from Tampa.
House Racebook is the Capital Region's new home for racing and sports. 25,000 square feet of Vegas-style action with live wagering on the best horse racing from around the world. 260 flat-screen televisions and state-of-the-art wagering terminals. So don't miss out. The fun is only minutes away at 711 Central Avenue, Albany, just off exit 5 of I-90. And don't forget, if you can't make it to the clubhouse, you can always wager online 24/7 at capitalotv.com.
This is a championship meet. All the best jockeys in the world are here, and I'm excited to ride against them.
We back.
And you get to watch some really incredible, talented athletes out there.
To us, it's a place to be in the winter.
I love Gulfstream Park because of the racing.
The palm trees, the beach is right here. The horse racing is some of the best in the country.
A lot of good horses come out of here. If you want to go to the next level, Gulfstream Park was the place to come.
I remember the first time I came to Gulfstream, it was like this big fairy tale place. All the history. And all these great horses, trainers, jockeys. It was everything that I ever dreamed of.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 7 kicks off the stakes action. Fillies and mares going 6th in the Minaret.
8, 5, 2, and 1. Olivia Darling. I'm going to go look for an upset in here. Caramel Swirl. You know, and it's probably the right spot for them. I mean, they're saying, hey, let's go over and try a $50,000 stake. You know, they're out of conditions, I'm sure, and this is probably the right spot for a talented horse like this. And Caramel Swirl is going to be a short price and might just run away and hide from this group, outclass them. But I thought in the good form, the nice win last time at Tampa, I thought Olivia Darling was very live in here for a trainer who's having a very good Tampa meet. So I'll look for the upset, Caramel Swirl right underneath, and as I say, I have no real arguments against that one, and this may be a clever spot to get things started with the 5-year-old campaign. My Destiny, a close-up second in this race last year, and another one coming in good form with a couple of wins, one at Gulfstream, and last time in a stake at Delta. My Destiny could be very intriguing in here as well. In the Tampa 7th, 8, 5, 2, and 1.
On to the 8th race. This is the 20th anniversary of Above the Wind, who ended up winning this race, Seth, 3 times in a row. Never the chalk, but 20 years ago today, not today, paid $1.30 and change to win. Went on to win 3 in a row. The Pelican going 6 for 4-year-olds and up.
5, 2, 7, and 1. Sibelius, just master of the obvious here. Comes out of the win in the Mr. Prospector over at Gulfstream. We look down the page. There's a couple of triple-digit buyers that jump out. So again, I think this one is very intriguing in here. And probably does have the edge if this one runs back to what we've seen recently. Pico, however, comes in pretty good form. Win 3 back at Gulfstream, then a third and a second. So again, Rohan Creighton, a high percentage guy, has this one, as I say, in good form. You know, on the numbers, it's still a little bit behind Sibelius, but if things fall apart with that one, Paco's Pico could pick things up, as could Uphold the Law. Fairly lightly raced, but 4 wins in 5 career starts, including a nice win at Fairgrounds to start the 5-year-old season. And that they elect to come over here and give a shot to this, I think shows the confidence they have, despite only the 5 career starts for the 5-year-old. But I think Uphold the Law, again, you're getting 8-1 in the morning line. If those odds hold up, could be an interesting alternative. But again, to me, it goes through Sibelius. In the 8th, 5-2, 7-1.
And to show you how Tampa's changed, a couple years ago, about 10 or 15, the turf action started to really elevate itself on a national, that certain trainers were willing to run, you know, grade 3 type races for $150 because they loved the turf course so much. You know who's winner of last year's Suncoast was?
No.
Nest.
So
I now the dirt action is starting to pick up. This is, you know, the Phillies.
Because I heard Jason Beam was interviewed, and they were talking about the potential of, you know,
back-to-back.
We should look at some grading for this
Absolutely.
one, given you know,
and
that
with Wonder
result
Wheeling here today.
Yeah.
So it's the Suncoast for the Phillies at the rarely run mile 40. He's absolutely right.
This is very interesting. 1, 8, 9, and 5. And we had Mark Cassie on a few weeks ago, and he talked about how high he is still. I mean, he talked about it last summer when he was on with us, but how high he is still. And when we had him on, she had just, I think, had her first work preparing for this year. And he said at the time, the Suncoast, or there was another option over at Gulfstream, will probably start her career, her season. So I'm going to put her on top.
I'm guessing if she's running today, it might have been the forward gal last week. If you wanted to bring her back going 7/8,
it probably
but he
was,
decided
yeah.
2 turns and here was better.
So I'll put her on top, but you know, the other half of the uncoupled entry, you always have to pay attention.
Yes,
so
you do.
Ticker Tape Home, who's had a pretty good career. Saratoga, Woodbine 4, Mark Cassie. You know, they tried the boys in the display at the end of last season and wound up a very close-up second. This one is intriguing to me, but the real intrigue for me, Julia Shining, if you're not familiar, not aware, full sibling to Malathat, and she has kind of lived up to that in the first 2, which were very similar races, where early in the race you thought, well, she's no Malathat, and then all of a sudden, well, she is kind of Malathat. Both races, she was just nowhere early and came late. That said, if you're a buyer person, the buyers don't jump off the page. But 2 for 2, 2 very good performances. I'm very intrigued to see what she does this afternoon. But for me, in the Suncoast, 1, 8, 9, and 5.
And for our viewers that are about my age, that's the display run at Woodbine, not the old display run in New York at, what, 2 1/4 miles? Yeah. All right, on to the 10th. One of the former owners of Tampa Bay Downs, right? That's what, we looked this up years ago. Who is Sam F. Davis? But I think long ago, he was an owner of Tampa Bay Downs, the 3-year-olds at a mile and a 16.
2, 7, 12, and 11, and I think the 6 Classic Car Wash for the aforementioned Mark Cassie may be a little bit intriguing too at a big price. I'm going to take a pop with Prairie Hawk. I think WNL winning, having won the Remsen, will take the action. I have that one right underneath. Comes in for Danny Gargan. But Prairie Hawk, to me, I like the fact that Safi Joseph popped this one over to Tampa for a couple of tries and got a couple of wins. So experience over the track, comes in with a good workout, cross-state. I think this one with Sammy Camacho on board will be very interesting as a possible upsetter. WNL right underneath and makes sense. Again, 2 for 3 so far, including the Remsen. And then Zydeco, who won the Pasco last time out, having shown an affinity for the track, and is now 3 for 5 overall, I think is a play. Litigate is interesting to me, and I probably would have used Litigate up further, maybe put Litigate on top. And I'm not going to talk anybody off of this using this one. The Pleasure Runner, ran second to Cyclone Mischief, and if you remember, Cyclone Mischief popped a big buyer number in that race, but subsequently seventh in the Holy Bull. So it's like, I wasn't sure what to do with Litigate, but again, I wouldn't argue anybody off. In the Sam Davis, 2-7, 12 and 11.
Now for Seth, the finale is probably intriguing. Why? You're less intrigued with the Phillies subset, right? 3-year-old Phillies on the turf than the boys, but
still fun.
Yes, the 3-year-old Phillies, maiden special weights, mile 16 on the turf. Just for intrigue, for those who love international racing and such, we have an offspring of Kingman, yikes, an offspring of Galileo, an offspring of probably the most under-talked about great European, See the Stars. This is quite an intriguing last race.
And how about Cairo Consort? Oh, who was phenomenal.
Yes.
Speaking of
subsets.
5, 3, 10, and 12. And that's one I want to see race
and
next
Seth
time.
goes to none of the ones that I just mentioned. So we have the whole board covered.
But I'm always attracted to Chad Brown and Klarovich. This one was purchased at Deauville in 2021. There's a sibling called Marinaccio that was third in debut and then won the second start, albeit on synthetic in Europe. But there's, that European breeding and connections who have reached over there to get some interesting horses over the last few years. So I'll go with 5 on top. Cirilla in the second spot by Kingman. Full sibling called Aryan Power that in Europe was second in debut, then 5th, and then went 3 straight wins. So the Christophe Clement runner, again, has a little bit of European power there that could be interesting in debut. And Lover's Rock, another Chad Brown runner, this one for Peter Brandt in debut, attracts me as well. So for me, I have it 5, 3, 10, and 12.
And I will say that Seth does have it, but 8, the Just a Splash, who is the offspring of See the Stars, makes the 3rd career start. If you were into developing horses like Anthony Dutrow, they take blinkers off today for the first. I know it's a big day at Tampa, and Ren will talk about it in a couple of minutes on Racing Across America. But pay attention to the last race. I mean, it's going to go off at 10-6, so it's not like they're going to have you there all day. But a very nice get-out race. I would not be walking out of Tampa Bay Downs today if I was there for all the great stakes action with the finale. And speaking of Ren Carruthers, who do you have on Racing Across America coming up?
Ren is kicking things off, top of the hour, and then we'll also be joined by Ellis Starr, racing analyst for America's Best Racing and some other venues as well. He's going to look at some of the Tampa action, but also toss the Withers in the mix as well. So we'll cover much of the nice Saturday afternoon stakes action coming up at 10 with Racing Across America.
Yeah, and kudos to Tampa Bay and their people. They have built this up, and their preview day is a terrific day of racing today, and obviously in a couple weeks they'll have their biggest day. And the Withers, an interesting race today at a mile and an eighth. We'll see what pops up there. So easier day today with the cars coming and going, so it'll be much easier walk out to the car now. He stays, I go. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great day with the racing.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.